This is a Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1.
This is a Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1. Seeking the best, being my best. Do do da 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 da. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the
Welcome to Seeking the Best, the podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity, focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn Stelgis, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick Fatika, our sound engineer, producer extraordinaire.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are here talking about lessons learned.
Yes.
It's been the new season, but it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more we have left.
A couple more.
Few more. Basically, this year we decided to talk about time. We talked about that in season 1.
Yep.
And all of the things. We beat that horse.
Yep.
Is that a saying?
Yes.
And then we went into lessons learned the hard way so that you don't have to. And today we've got another lesson for you. Of course, that's what you're here for. It's been such a fun journey to think about and really dissect the moments in my career that made such an impact.
Yeah, it is like an autopsy, like that kind of a thing, like going back and looking and you know, it's like by doing that and kind of really getting into the details of why, you know, hopefully that stops you from making a similar mistake or just allows you to kind of see what the possibilities could be like moving forward, like what before any other thing would pop up, I guess. Well,
so today's specifically, these are, so I remember, and I've said this before, somebody said that you forget your job duties every 90 days. And I don't just mean you, I mean like everyone, everyone forgets what their job is every 90 days. And I think what happens is we get busy. And so sometimes mistakes happen or something occurs and you notice it immediately and you course correct and you never do it again.
Yeah. And
other times it shows up as patterns that you just keep kind of doing these things and seeing the results are not what you wanted them to be. And so you eventually take action and make changes.
When you notice,
like
it's real difficult in a job where you're your only employee. And so there isn't anyone standing over you saying, what are you working on?
Or, hey, don't do it that way.
Right.
And here's why.
So what happens is most just human nature kind of if you're not paying attention, you will take the path of least resistance. That doesn't mean that it's the right path. Right. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you sit on your back porch on a Saturday morning and you write down all of your systems. And these are going to be the systems that I follow. And then you start breaking those systems to placate yourself or to get whatever with a client, like, you know,
spit it out.
Well, you like where you start to change the system to help out a client or to whatever. And then it doesn't really affect that issue. It doesn't really affect that deal. So maybe next time you just skip it. And then all of a sudden you look up 90 days later and you're doing things in a completely different way than you were 90 days earlier because there's no one standing over you trying to keep you in line. Well,
I was going to say, or what's most likely the culprit is that you never really internalized the system anyways.
Right.
Because
100%.
As real estate agents, you, like you said, you don't have a boss who gives you a guide or a standard operating procedures for how to do the job.
Right.
You're piecing it together yourself. And so as you do that, you start to pick up on things or you grab
Is this a system or is this something that I just did once and now, I need to remember to do that again. Yeah. And then you don't remember and sometimes you do. And it's just this weird kind of, you're right. The standard operating procedure doesn't really exist until you've been doing it long enough that you can internalize it and put it in place. And even then it can be difficult to follow if you're going to say, I'm going to create my systems and my standard operating procedure and sit down in front of Claude or Chat GTP. You might get a really nice list outline of what those should be, but is it internalized?
Well, no. And what really happens is before you even go to do that, well, you might do that, but what you usually do before that is you get a checklist from some source. So
Right.
maybe your brokerage or something. You're like, okay, I'm gonna take my first listing, and what do I do with my listing? And you get a checklist from somebody else, and you start to implement those things, and you see what's working, what's not, and then you get another listing, and you might go into AI in today's modern society. I didn't have this when I started, but you might go in there and ask it to create something for you, and then you start working off of that. And yeah, you're not really internalizing the entire process for years.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of doing it as it comes until you get to a point, and this is at some point in your real estate career, you're either going to decide to build a team or you're going to decide that you're a solo agent and that's how you like it. But at some point, when I think as that starts to come to light of what direction you're going to go, you are starting to treat things more like a business. And you're going to start documenting things to make it easier, because even if you have made the decision, I'm never hiring any agents, you still probably, in order to grow, are going to have some sort of administrative support. And so you need something to be able to train them on. So then you might start to document these things so that they get done correctly by the next person. But that takes years. The first few years, you are just kind of going day by day, running around at other people's whims. And so what happens? You do something one day that doesn't happen the next time you get a listing. And it's just not consistent for a really long time. So we just never really understand our job fully. Like, what is the job of a real estate agent? Until we're years into the business and
It's too late.
it's too late. We're too off track.
Well, do you have a story for us this week?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to sit back and listen.
Okay.
All right.
I used to do what we called floor duty in my first brokerage. And if you don't know what that is, it's where you sit in the office and people walk in, potentially, and it becomes a lead. And I was sitting at this office. It was in downtown Orlando on the corner of a very busy street intersection. And it had like all glass windows surrounding it. And up in the windows were all of the pictures of the listings that we had. And nowadays there's like TVs with listings on them, but we had like actual, and I think they even continued inside on a wall with these little shelves, and the brochure of the listing with the professional photo would sit on the front of the brochure, and it would just sit on these little shelves and along the front glass windows. So because of the location, we got a decent amount of foot traffic. And I was sitting on a sunny day, and an older gentleman walked in named Stanley. And he had actually in his hands, he had copies of color brochures, which was like a really big deal back then for real estate services, as if you had like full color brochures for the listings. And he had some from other listings in the area that he had accumulated. And he walked in because he wanted to work with Sotheby's. I worked for a local Sotheby's branch when I first got into real estate. And he wanted to work with Sotheby's because of this beautiful branded marketing. And so I was super excited. I had gotten a lead just from sitting in the room. How exciting was that? And so I met with Stanley to talk to him about listing his property. And I was super excited. This would have been my second listing. It's hard to get listings when you're first getting started, because I think, sellers want expertise and experience, and I didn't have any of that. And I had gotten my first listing that was a for sale by owner, but that was hard. That was hard work. That was cold calling for sale by owners and following up. And this guy just walked in the door and said, I want to work with a Sotheby's agent. And so I met with Stanley about listing his property, and we chose a price, we chose the terms, and we were going to get started marketing this. And he asked me,
can you stop by and water the plants on a weekly basis?
And I didn't even think twice about it. I said, sure thing. And so I proceeded to list this property. This was a market where things were not flying off the shelf. The average days on market was probably 6 months. And so every couple of days I was going to Stanley's property and watering his plants. And I never sold that property. It sat and it sat. And ultimately, I didn't get paid. And I was essentially just a lawn care person for someone for 6 months. Looking back, I didn't see any trouble with it. I didn't see any problems with it. I was just excited to have a listing. I was excited that Stanley wanted to work with me and didn't, I had the backing of this major brand and that's what mattered. And so I didn't have to really prove myself because I got to use the established brand as the reason he would want to work with me. And of course, he got all of the services and the full color brochure that he wanted, but he also got a free lawn care service for 6 months. And so I think back to that time where I was hungry to work and wanted to prove myself. And I was willing to do whatever it took for the chance to possibly sell a house, regardless of how much it devalued my time.
Yes, you live and you learn of what not to do.
Well,
I think, and I don't remember exactly, but did you say during the story that he didn't live there?
No, it was a vacant property.
Right. So it was a vacant property and it was hot because it's Florida and you had to go over there with a hose.
Yes, there was no, there was no irrigation system. Yeah. And it was like these plants that he had planted.
Like right before it got listed.
So
fresh new plants. And you could say, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. Well, first of all, I would, but let's just say that you said, yeah, I'll water your plants. Well, you know what? You listed on Thursday, it's under contract by Monday and you're done. But in the worst market of our lifetimes, where the average time on market was anywhere from 4 to 6 months, never once did it cross your mind of, oh, I am going to be watering these plants for an entire season. I'm going to watch these trees bear fruit by the time this house sells. So this is one of those lessons that I wish I could say, did it once, learned my lesson, did never do it again. This is something that I've been pushing for Kathryn for a very, very long, since this happened, to not ever put yourself in a situation where you're watering someone's plants for them. We use it as a saying. I hear it all the time. Patrick's always talking about it. But seriously, like, I wish that was the one time. But here are some other examples, okay, of things that I've done. And the issue with all of these, because this is going to resonate with anybody listening to this. If you've ever taken a listing or you've worked with a buyer, you have done one of these things, and you tell yourself that you're going above and beyond. Oh, yes. That you're willing to do whatever it takes, right? I said it in the story. I was willing to do whatever it took. And we do these things to make... We go above and beyond for our clients. So have you ever watered plants? Have you ever taken in someone's mail?
Have you ever checked on their AC unit? Changed the filter, perhaps? Maybe they ordered filters in the mail and had them delivered, and you picked up the box, you opened it, you changed out the filter, you threw out the other one.
Did they leave some stuff under the sink?
They left stuff behind. Oh my gosh, I didn't even have this on my list, Patrick, but like taking other people's trash out of their house because they left some stuff behind in the last moment. Feeding pets. I've actually never done that one. Yeah. But it was something that I thought about. But on that note, wait, hold on. Yeah. I've got a list I'm going through. Okay. Hold on.
All right.
Not feeding pets. I've never done that. But have you ever done an open house and people left their pets in the house, which meant you're responsible for their pets while you're doing the open house?
Don't let anyone open this bedroom door. The cats are in there.
Now, this happens sometimes with showings. I'm talking about these extra things where they're like, hey, is it okay if I do this? Or letting their dogs out, perhaps. Like, hey, can you go over? I know there's a showing happening. Can you go over and make sure the dogs go out before the showing so that they don't accidentally go in the house or something? Turning lights on and off. Really kind of setting the house before every showing. And hold on, because I'm going to get to, I'm going to talk about prepping the house for showings. But let me get there. Waiting for deliveries. Like, has anyone ever had something delivered for the getting the house ready for sale, and you end up being the person over there?
Oh, like we're putting a new stove in.
Yeah.
Like the stove was broken. We're replacing the stove. Can you go meet Best Buy there?
Yeah. Or permits need to be closed, and so somebody's got to be at the door to let the permit guy in because he won't use the code on the lockbox to go in. Somebody has to be present.
Right. Yes.
Watering the lawn or like checking on their irrigation system to make sure it's working. Bringing in packages, same as bringing in the mail, but still, like, have you moved boxes for people?
A lot of these sound like when their house is vacant, like these people pick up and they move to another part of the country, and they leave you in charge.
Yeah. But
some of them are like obviously pets and stuff like that, or when people are still living.
Yeah, but
in the home.
So there's all kinds of stuff that happen that it's kind of like helping them sort of manage the house.
Yeah.
Whether they're in town or out of town.
Yeah.
Then there's things like,
because we do know all the time people go, you get the house listed, and then they come to you, and because you didn't, I'm not saying this happens to Kathryn, but the due diligence of, by the way, we're going to Europe for 2 weeks. Right after they list the house, they had a vacation planned and stuff, and now who's in charge while they're in Europe for 2 weeks?
Yeah. Well, and so like, then you think about things that you do that are sort of like real estate adjacent. So you think, well, maybe that's my responsibility. Like managing repairs, checking on contractors, letting contractors in, meeting with the vendors, showing them what needs to be done, sending photos after work is done. Like, these are things that legitimately happen all the time.
You mean when you say sending photos after work is done, like a contractor comes in and paints the house, and so then the real estate agent goes over and takes all the photos of what it looks like and then sends it to the seller.
Yeah, and like you, but hear me out, because it's that, but you're taking responsibility for the things that somebody else was doing.
You became a middleman. You mean?
Well, yeah, there's a difference between providing vendors and managing someone's project. And I've managed way too many projects in my life, in my career. But yeah.
That's because you're a control freak.
Excuse me. Changing out light bulbs. Selecting colors and flooring and things like that, like design choices for people in prepping the house.
What color floors? We're going to put in all new vinyl floors. What color floors should we use, and what color should the walls be? And we need to paint the door. What color should that be? And then providing them with all of those things.
And then these are things that, so like painting a house. Have I done that before? Yeah. Let me tell that story real quick. Okay. Why was I painting someone's house? It wasn't their entire house. Years ago, I had a listing that had a FHA or VA loan, and I can't remember which one, but I think it was FHA, which FHA isn't as strict today as they were back then, but there was a little bit of peeling paint on
they freak out about peeled paint
on the fascia of the house and the eaves. And it was an older lady. And so at the time I had somebody that was working with me, and we went and we scraped and painted that lady's house. Okay. So there's a lot wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think in the moment you feel like you're doing this nice thing for this older person who doesn't really have the money to fix it, but you're also doing it because you want the deal to close, and it's such a little piece of paint. I'll just do it myself. That's what we tell ourselves every time we go and we do these things that are not part of our job. But then there's the other part too, the emotional stuff that we take on. And like, I understand that selling real estate and buying a home, it's an emotional process. There's people involved, so there's always emotions involved. But think about times where you've actually become like a mediator between a divorced couple or between family members. Right. And it's like, that's not our jobs.
The two sisters inherited the house, their childhood home, and the one sister doesn't live here, and she's the one who wants to make all the decisions, and the sister who does live here doesn't show up when she's supposed to, and then they're talking behind each other's backs to the agent and stuff, like that kind of a thing, and you're just taking it all in and having to deal with messed up personalities because somehow not only are you a house painter, but you're also a psychologist.
Yeah. But this stuff happens. But I think the reason I'm pointing it out there's a lot of these things over the years where I have told myself that I'm just going above and beyond, that I do go the extra mile, that I do these things because it helps people. And it's not that stuff's not true. It's just, I think that there's a way to go above and beyond for people within the scope of your job duties. And I think that's where there's this line that we need to think about before we go do things that, number one, like just we shouldn't be taking on the liability or responsibility. And I'll give that example real quick. And then after the break, we'll talk about, what is actually our job, the scope of our job duties, and how do we navigate these times where people do ask us to do things that are outside of them. But so I had two different instances actually where a house was broken into. And I'll tell you, Patrick knows the one in particular that this house, the sellers had moved away and they didn't have anybody really in town to check on anything. And at least I think, I don't, maybe they did. And they just figured it was my job.
We'll get into it.
And some kids broke into these people's house. They actually threw, like, the sellers had left a couple old propane cans on the porch.
Like for a grill.
So the kids, and they found out, the police found out it was kids. That's how I know. They used those propane cans and threw them through a sliding glass window, sliding glass door, and then went inside the house and spray painted everywhere.
Inside the house.
And then in the garage, it looked like
stuff, and it was a mess. It was a mess.
And inside the garage, it looked like they were hanging out in there because they
were smoking and drinking.
There was some bottles and cans and cigarette butts, and there was like they had taken some other things in the garage that were left behind, and kind of they were almost like sitting in a circle, hanging out in there. And of course, I found out because somebody went to show the property, and immediately
was open and broken windows.
Yeah, and immediately let me know. And so, like, who's then like responsible? It's not my house, but of course I felt like in that emergency situation, I had to be the one who called the police and who then had to meet with the police. And then I ended up having to help get it emergency repaired so that it was secured. So I had a contractor come and board up the door until they could actually replace it. And then I managed that repair too.
and then had to manage and take photos and send it to the owners so they could use their insurance and blah, blah, blah. And then on the phone with them. All of these
things that are like
police report that you had to fill out.
And then I had to talk to the cops like 6 months later when they found out who did it and could I testify? And I'm like, I wasn't there. I'm not gonna. That is not the job of a real estate agent.
No. This reminds me of, there is a, all of these things could be solved very easily, but it's whether or not you're willing to hold the line. But there's an old movie from the 70s called Gus, and it's about a horse that plays football, and it can kick. It's like a real horse, and it's like a Mr. Ed kind of thing, and it can kick the ball through the field goal. And they're like, well, there's nothing in the rules that says a horse can't play football, right? And it's like, well, if you don't put down, you can't say, well, I don't do this and I don't do this and I don't do this and I don't do this. It's impossible for you to list all of the things that you don't do for people to them. So what you have to do is get out of the way, right? So this person, this group of people, this seller who was no longer living in town, and you said, well, they didn't have anyone else. Well, then you better hire somebody to take care of it.
Well, but put yourself in those shoes for a moment. If that happened to one of our properties, one of us would get on a plane or we'd get in the car the next day and we would drive there and we would deal with it. We would never in a million years ask somebody else to handle it. Right.
But you're applying the way that we have an outlook on life and society and other people and our own personal responsibilities on other people. And we know that other people don't want, they move. It's like, well, I don't want to deal with any of that. And just ask her. Just ask and see if she'll do it.
Well, and there's two parts to that. Number one was I inserted myself into it, and this was an emergency situation. Okay, I'm going to tell you about another one real quick that was not so emergency, or like didn't need to be us involved in it. But I inserted myself because it was an emergency, and then I was involved. And instead of like taking a step back at that time and figuring out how to tactfully do that, I just kept being involved. And so I don't put that on them as like they asked me to do something that was like outside the scope or anything, because I'm not sure that they directly asked me at that time. It just sort of unfolded that way. But later there was a moment where it was like the next steps of the police report and stuff. And they did like ask me to be involved in that because I was there. But I could have said, you're as the owner, this is not something I can help with. This is your house, like whatever. But again, like you don't, when you first get started, you don't necessarily have the skills
or the foresight to know that what could happen, what you could end up being responsible for.
You don't think about those consequences. Now, luckily, nothing, there was no liability that came about in the future or anything like that, but like there could have been, right? Yeah. And so, but we do this because we think we're helping. And in a sense we are. Like I definitely helped them through that. But it wasn't my role to do all of that. So let me tell you one more where somebody broke in. And this was actually a little bit more recent, where I had a team member, and there was a house that an agent went to go show, and it was open, and there was a guy inside. And I can't 100% remember if we knew the guy was inside, but one of my team members went over there and then proceeded to tell the guy to leave and got involved.
Yeah.
That could have ended very poorly. Yeah. And I was like really upset with the team member for doing that.
Right. For inserting themselves.
But I think like even in that moment, and maybe a leadership lesson is I should have said, no, that's not your responsibility. Don't do that. That person was probably thinking they were helping by going and closing up the house and dealing with it. But it's like, if it was broken into, the only thing that needs to happen is a call to the owners and a call to the police. And then that needs to then become their responsibility.
Right. And when you said a call to the owners and a call to the police, you call to the owners. and let the owners call the police. It's their house. They're grown ass adults. Like this whole thing.
Well, hold on. Because I can't remember if the person was in the house or not at the time that we knew that it was broken into. But if there's an active like situation, you can call the police. My gosh, don't like leave a voicemail for the owners and then just
well, yes, of course not. No, that's not what I'm saying.
But my point is just, you have to be a citizen of the world and act appropriately in the moment while also remembering your role as their real estate agent and what are the job duties of a real estate agent and what is the scope of that relationship, and don't go outside those boundaries. So that's why I wanted to talk about on the break is like, what does going above and beyond look like within the scope of being a real estate agent? Because you can be an excellent agent that just really serves clients at a high level and gives them extra things, does extra things for them without
doing things that aren't,
doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
All right, let's get into it after the break.
If you're enjoying this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in how you spend your time and energy, there are a few easy places to connect with us beyond the podcast.
Over on YouTube, you can find us at Seeking the Best Pod. We share full episodes of the show, short coaching clips, reviews of real estate products, and tips on building a real estate business that actually works in real life. We post videos on Thursday mornings.
Or find us on Instagram at On Seeking the Best. There we post behind the scene moments, short practical tips, and some of the real unfiltered stuff that doesn't always make it into the show.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the Candy Bag, where Kat posts more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes, head to onseekingthebest.com. You can learn more about us, buy some Seeking the Best merch, or send us a question that we'll answer on the show.
However you connect with us, thanks for being here and keep seeking your best.
And we're back.
So I think a lot of stuff stems from people who don't actually live in the house. And so you have a listing or even a buyer that doesn't live here locally. And
or
so
like they've already moved and so the house is vacant.
Yeah. Or they move during the process and it becomes vacant. And then there's a lot of things that happen during that time where the house is vacant that you become
house manager
for them.
And you're just like, you want to be right. You want to go above and beyond. So yeah, I'll check in on that. Yeah, I'll do that. But you don't have the foresight to see what could happen. And what I was trying to get at before, which I've been trying to get Kathryn to add to her listing presentation or like the talk, is that anytime as an agent, your sellers are telling you, well, we should be moved out by then, or we're moving to X, or you're helping them move and they're going to move first and then sell the house. They have to have a point person that lives locally that is there to maintain the house, to take care of the house, to run errands for the house, to check on the house, to turn on they need to have somebody, and it's not you, right? Well, we don't know anybody. We don't have anybody. I can put you in touch with plenty of companies that are house managers that can come in and do those things, TaskRabbit type stuff and stuff. That is not my job, however you want to say it. And that puts the kibosh on it right from the beginning.
So I 100% agree. I was just thinking of how often you end up pulling in packages. Like we do that often. People forget to change their address.
Right.
And it's not just pulling in packages. We end up mailing stuff to people that they left behind.
None of this is your job.
Do you know how many packages I've mailed to people? And one time I mailed this.
Well, I remember another thing that's not even mailing. Remember the people that moved away and they had, was it their security system?
Mm-mm.
They wanted their security system.
Oh gosh, I don't remember that
one. It
was
Lake Como area. You don't remember?
No.
Yeah. They had moved, but they wanted their security system to go with them, but they didn't want to remove the security system because nobody was living there.
Oh, I don't remember this at all.
Right before they closed, I went over there with you, and we disconnected all of their security system and put it in a box and mailed it to them.
Okay, well, I don't remember that, but I believe you.
Because I had to bring a ladder over there to pull the stuff off. I remember.
Well,
and so these are the kinds of things where it's like, that is not your responsibility as an agent to do any of that stuff. And it's like what I was saying about the football horse. You can't possibly say, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this. But what you can do is say, you're not going to be here. Who's your point person? Well,
you mentioned like house manager. This is a term recently that I saw on a Facebook post, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's a house manager? And you can hire people. So yes, there's TaskRabbits, but you can actually hire people to like return mail, light cleaning, like take care of things that you would take care of at a house. Mm-hmm. So could somebody hire someone to go water plants?
Right.
Sure.
Or talk to a neighbor before you move and say, can you be my point person for when this happens or that happens or whatever it is? They're grown adults. Figure it out. It's not my job to maintain your property for you and water your plants when you're gone. It's not my job to do that. And you want to know what above and beyond is? Above and beyond is to make it very clear that they need a point person, and this is why. And then to point them in a direction of where to find one. That's going above and beyond.
Well, or yeah, if you had an actual relationship with somebody who did some service like that,
right,
that you could point them to, that's going above and beyond. That's having a resource for them. What they want really in the end is a solution to the problem, mm-hmm. but they don't know who else to ask if they don't live here, except, hey, you've got a key to my house.
Right.
Can you do this? But here's the biggest lesson in all of this is how I see myself now versus as a new agent and how they see you, right? So when I was a new agent, I didn't really probably even think that wasn't my job. I mean, I probably had a sense that I shouldn't be watering their plants, but I was like, well, I guess this is what realtors do.
This is just paying your dues. It's just part of the job. Yeah. It's just, I guess this is part of it because no one's there telling me it's not.
Yeah.
Now our listeners, they've got us barking in their ears saying, don't do this. So at least you're learning something ahead of when Kathryn learned.
Right. Or maybe you've been here before, but now this is the catalyst to say, hey, you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
Some of these things are way outside the scope of my job. And it's not, how does that make them perceive you? If you're available to go water plants for someone, and I'm just digging in on this example because it was the story I told, but if you're available to go water plants for someone, how are they perceiving you as a door opener, as somebody who's just available to do whatever tasks they need you to do, not a high level negotiator, marketer, expert in this field who's there to show them how to sell their house, negotiate on their behalf, and move them from contract to close.
Yeah. And you could have easily just said to that guy, well, I won't be able to do that for you. Obviously, I work all day, every day. But I can put you in touch with a irrigation company that might be able to set up a temporary thing. And then you don't call the company and ask, you give him the numbers and you let him call and ask. Like as soon as you call and ask, now you're in the middle. Now all of a sudden you're there for them to set up. You're there when they break it down. You're involved. It's like, it's not your job to be involved in all of this stuff. Your job is to sell the house. It's not to do all of these other things. You all you're doing is making it more difficult. You're putting yourself in that situation. You should be out calling more and getting more leads. And it's like this idea that you're supposed to just kind of do whatever it is that a seller asks because I go above and beyond for my clients, or they're not going to appreciate me if I say no to them and stuff is just, it's insane.
Oh, I've made even recent mistakes of just trying to be nice to people and going on a holiday weekend and, letting them have their cleaner clean a house for 4 hours while I just sat and waited because...
Right. You sat there at the house while the cleaner was going to take 20 minutes and was there for 4 hours.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be a quick little thing and it wasn't. Yeah. And
because was it before the closing?
It was before it was for a buyer.
Right.
So understand I had to get permission from the other agent to do it. But what I was doing was just being a door opener.
Yeah.
A doormat for to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's not your job to do those things. The
cleaner could have come the morning of the closing.
Right.
I digress.
Yeah.
The point is like, okay, so how do you know when you're outside the scope? Because if you run this through this filter of like, what are my job responsibilities? Do I really understand clearly, like, what are we supposed to do? Because we all make these mistakes. Like I'm telling, real estate agents all do this. And so I think that's where it stems from, is you see somebody else doing something and you assume that that's the way it's done, right? That's what sellers expect. I remember a seller once asked me, when I was at a listing presentation, if I was able to pay for repairs when the buyers do inspections, and if they found some things that needed to be repaired, because it was important to him that he found an agent that participated in the repair costs. And I was like, well, and I had at least enough experience to know to say, well,
that's not a thing.
I don't actually pay for other people's house repairs. I pay for my own. But so what are our jobs? Like, our job is to represent the seller or buyer, because this happens with buyers too.
Yeah.
Help them understand your relationship. So there's the key part, is help them understand everything I'm about to say and what your job duties are. Help them understand compensation, the market, the comparables, be the expert in the market and what they're about to experience. Helping them with understanding pricing, how to strategize to get more showings, how to understand and interpret feedback and what you need to do differently. You can help them with listing preparation. So I do what I call a staging plan, where I take pictures of the house and then I put together a little guide to help them with like kind of creating a punch list. Mm-hmm. You can help recommend vendors. The areas where I get into difficulty is when I start actually project managing someone's renovation.
Right. So they move out of the house and they want to redo the floors and paint the interior.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then they say to Kathryn, well, when you talk to your the contractor, have them send me the different floors. And then the seller ends up sending Kathryn the floors and saying, which floor should I put in? And then what color should the walls be? And now all of a sudden, Kathryn's involved in the design of this slight remodel before we list the house.
Well, and so think about that, because I have done that. And,
I know you have.
And by the way, like some people...
I've done mock-ups.
Yes, and some people want to work with me because I do have an eye for design, and I have a background. I have a degree in residential planning, which is like interior design. It's just not called that.
Yeah.
And people know that. I've even used it as a value proposition before, but that got me into trouble, because then people want me making decisions, but I'm not actually getting paid for that.
Right.
So like, they didn't hire an interior designer. They hired me. I didn't charge them more on the compensation or get paid for that, but I ended up doing the work of a designer or a project manager. But then the issue with that is that you're then responsible for the outcome.
Right.
What if they don't like the way it looks?
Or what if the painter doesn't do that great of a job?
Or what if you don't sell the house and all the feedback is this is ugly?
Right.
You become responsible for those outcomes. Now, I've been lucky because I do have an eye for design that hasn't happened. But that doesn't mean that I should ever continue that path, and especially not without having some sort of compensation for it. If you're going to add some sort of, and I know Patrick probably disagrees with this, but if you were going to add some sort of extra, like, I will do these extra services for you in return for a higher percentage at closing or something like that, that's a little bit different, right? Because then at least you're saying this is outside the responsibilities. So I'm willing to help you with this, and it's an extra service I provide, but you pay for the extra service. That's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think the extra service is the staging plan with the mock-up, where the door is robin egg blue instead of the deep dark red that they have it painted now, and you show them what that could look like, and that's it. And then it's up to them to hire a designer. It's up to them to hire a contractor. I can give you the name of a contractor. I can give you the name of a designer. You call them as the seller. You set it up. It's your thing. You let me know when you're done. and we'll list the house. But I am not getting involved in the process.
Oh, let me just tell you real quick.
There's no guarantee this house is going to sell.
Well, let me just tell you real quick, because what you just said, then we'll list the house. You're not getting any of that until we have listing paperwork signed.
Oh, yes. I meant list, like
launch the listing.
Launch the listing.
That's how I describe it, so that they understand the difference.
100%.
I'm not providing those expert recommendations and all of that.
You get nothing until the paperwork's signed.
But there's a distinction there. There's above and beyond is a staging plan, providing vendors.
Yeah.
That's being above and beyond in your role.
In the realm of what your role is. Yes, 100%.
And then, so marketing the property, making sure it's shown properly, having a solution for how they'll be notified for showings and making that a seamless process. Now, here's where I'm going to go into a bit of a rabbit hole.
Oh.
Mr. Rabbit, wait!
So, and I might get some haters on this, but I do not believe that I should be present for somebody's showing. And I know that there's a luxury market where that's an expectation and maybe even a requirement, but I'm talking about just like an average listing.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about a $2 million,
I'm not talking about
8,000 square foot house. Yeah.
I'm not talking about a niche market, niche, whatever you want to call it. I'm talking about just like your average listing. I have sold too many houses and I've been in too many showings where the other agent's there. And I have never, hear me, never sold a house where another agent was there showing the property except one, and it was a luxury home. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so what that tells me, that pattern tells me, is that that's actually like getting in the way of getting those places sold. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah. People can't talk openly and discuss whether or not this is a house that they would want to buy and what they would do because there's another agent there.
And
so
this applies for owners too. Like if the owner's home, every time an owner's home or another agent, it makes it this uncomfortable situation. I showed a property the other day and the agent was like breathing down our necks.
Yeah.
I'm like, give us some space, dude. Anyways, but my point is that when it comes to showing the property, your job as the agent to go above and beyond is to have a really streamlined process and solution for them. It doesn't mean you're the one that's opening the doors all the time. And so sometimes sellers ask for that though. I had a seller, this was last year, and one of his things was that he wanted me to be there for every showing.
Right. They don't want a lockbox on their house. He didn't want a lockbox. Right? So because they think...
Yeah, he didn't want a lockbox. And I was prepared to not take the listing because that breaks my system.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot now because I've done it so many times, but like before I would have been like, oh gosh, I want the listing, so I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't even have pushed back. Years ago, I wouldn't have even pushed back.
Yeah. You would have just taken the listing and then showed it every single time someone wanted to see it.
Yes. And so I said, because he said,
I remember this.
Yeah. He said that that's a showstopper. Or something like that, like as if it was like
a deal breaker.
But I explained to him that, I understood his concerns and here's how I show properties. And I explained where the lockbox would be placed, how we would communicate showing requests, when he would need to leave, when he could come back, how we would make sure that the lockbox was only secure to agents. I explained the whole process to him and I left that listing appointment not knowing if I was going to get that listing because he said it was a showstopper. And so I said that would not be something I'd be willing to compromise on because there's a couple things. Number one, I don't have the ability to go out to every one of those showings, especially at like an average price point home. I mean, that house had like 30 showings in the first like 2 days. Not possible for me to go and be present. So that would have dragged out his ability to get it sold, which is also what I told him. It was like, if you need an agent to show a house for you, you are not going to be able, now you're talking about your time, the agent's time, the other agent's time, and the buyer's time. You're involving 4 different people to get this scheduled. You're going to hold yourself back on getting it sold in a timely manner. And the longer it sits on the market because of that inconvenience, the less money you'll make. And here's a graph that shows you that exact thing. Right. And so through education, I showed him the value of having a lockbox versus me. Mm-hmm. And I sold that house for over asking price. And this was not the boom time. This was like last year.
Yeah.
And
the end of this past year.
So my rabbit hole, the point is that our job isn't to open the door. Our job is to provide a solution so that a home can get showed quickly and get the value that is behind the reason for showing it quickly. And the same is true for buyers, and why you can use a showing agent is like a buyer just wants to get in there quickly. That's the solution you're providing them by having somebody else show it. It doesn't have to be you. It just has to be quick.
Yeah.
And prompt. That's the same thing.
That's what they want.
Then your other job. So I'm back on track. That was my rabbit hole.
Okay.
It's keeping them informed and negotiating. People want to feel like they've gotten a good deal, and your job is to set expectations about what that is, and then help negotiate the best possible scenario for them and their goals. Contract and deadline management, disclosure, helping them understand disclosures, coordinating the transaction. Again, somebody else can be doing this. It's the process in which it makes it go smoothly.
Right.
So what does that mean? It doesn't mean going over there and meeting with the other person's inspector because the seller is like, hey, I feel uncomfortable about this. Can you go over and be there for 4 hours while the other person's inspector does it? No.
No. That's not how this works. They don't know how it works. You have your job. We say all the time, you're their guide, right? You have to guide them through the process by telling them the right way to do the way that you do things, what your systems are, the tried and true methods that work every single time. And then you have to hold to those.
And the biggest key part is, why is it beneficial for them to do it that way?
Of course.
What's the value? Because the reason it's not all for my convenience. Some of it works out that way, but it's all for their benefit.
Right.
It's all for their benefit. So professional guidance, documentation, recommending resources. This is that going above and beyond. If you have an excellent contractor, inspector, attorney, lender, title company, if you have all of these people that make everything run really smoothly, and you're coordinating them with these other professionals, house manager, that's a new one that I got to find and add to the list.
Yeah.
But that's going above and beyond. That's going above and beyond.
Right.
What's not is all those other things we talked about that are not.
We didn't
like if you say, can I pay somebody else to do this? It's probably someone else's job.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. It's like if you've got if they've moved out, but they didn't paint the third bedroom from butter yellow to white because they didn't have time, and they left all the paint in there, and they say to you, hey, I know you're busy, but is there any way you could please just go finish the painting in that room? We tried to get it done, but we didn't. We left all the paint there. Not only is it not your job to do the painting, it's not your job to remove the paint. That's someone else's job. That is not part of your job duties. And if you set the boundaries from the beginning and you set expectations from the beginning, none of this will happen. You know, I can't stress that part of it enough, but there are plenty of agents out there that would put on their old pair of jeans on a Saturday morning and try to talk their significant other into getting bagels and going over to that house and painting those walls. And you know what? There's a chance that house doesn't sell.
Hey, I just remembered a story.
A new one? Oh, no.
Yes.
Is it something that I had to go do?
Nope. It's something Kayla went with me to do. If you're a longtime listener, you know Kayla was my director of operations who went on maternity leave and decided to be a
to not come back. Yeah.
Yeah. But so there was a house that I had listed, and this is just a good example of of what we do that the seller didn't even ask us to do. Okay. But we feel like we're going to make it better. So we had this listing, and I've actually talked about the seller before because he was a difficult one, but we had recommended a cleaner, and the cleaner went and did the house cleaning. And then the next time I was there,
after they moved out, kind of a cleaning.
It was actually a tenant occupied property.
Okay. So the tenant
moves out. We gave a recommendation for a cleaner. The cleaner went and cleaned the house. And then I think we were checking on it to see if it was ready.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it was filthy. Like, it was like, did somebody come through here and clean? And instead of stopping and calling the seller and saying, Mr. Seller, the cleaners, I know that we recommended them, but you know what? They did not do a sufficient job. I'm going to recommend you hire another cleaner because it's not up to par. Or calling the cleaner and saying, and I feel like we did call the cleaner, but I don't know. And saying, hey, this, I don't know. It doesn't look like anyone's been through.
Right.
You need to send somebody back and do it again. Whatever needed to happen there. Instead, we said to ourselves, we'll just go clean it. And Kayla and I went over there with cleaning supplies and scrubbed that thing. Now, was it a fun little team building exercise? Sure. Should we have been doing it? Absolutely not. What if we ruined something?
Yeah, you could have went out to lunch. That's a good team building exercise too.
No, we could have messed something up. Like in the moment, you're like, I'm helping this guy out. I'm going to make sure this is sparkling clean so this gets sold because it's gross.
Your job. It's not your job.
Of course not. And so those are those moments though where you do things where it seems like in the moment you're helping someone. But number one, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble. But number two, you are devaluing your services.
Yeah.
Every time you say yes to doing those little menial tasks, they start to see you as the person who does the menial little tasks.
You want to know above.
That's not how you want clients to see you.
Here's a good example of above and beyond. You go take your car to the car wash, and then you get the car wash, and you get back in the car, and they polished your sunglasses, and they took all the fingerprints off of the sunglasses, and they rearranged all of the little doodads and got them all in order. That's above and beyond. What you don't expect is for them to give you a tune-up because that's not their job, right? And so why would you even? Nobody would expect that. But the polishing of the sunglasses, that's kind of like washing the car. It's in the same realm and stuff. So when you're going above and beyond as an agent, stick within the bumpers of what your job duties are and go above and beyond in that. You do not stray off into some other thing. And all of a sudden you're not doing woodworking for them, right? So why are you cleaning the windows? That's not your job.
Well, and so sometimes it's you thinking like, well, I'm helping them, so I'm going to do this. But sometimes it's them legitimately asking and you not having the skills or the strength and confidence to say no in that moment or know how to say like that's somebody else's job without saying no, that's someone else's job. That's not how you would say it,
of course
right?
Not. Yeah.
But so you have to always remember, like, don't think badly about the person because they ask. They don't know.
No,
and in fact,
I said that earlier. Like, just like that's a very common thing. They go, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. Just ask them and maybe they can do it.
I was literally thinking about that saying. It's such a, don't get me started. I just think when you say, well, it doesn't hurt to ask, it's like, but it does.
Yeah.
It actually does. You don't know what are the consequences of asking that person is like, you're putting them in a really tough situation where they're going to either have to say no to you and feel bad about it. So you just made them feel bad, or they're going to do it, but you know they shouldn't be. Yeah. But anyways, it's not about them asking. Like
that's a whole episode.
That's a whole different conversation because I mean that in life in general.
Yeah.
But sometimes people ask because they're overwhelmed and they don't know how to actually fix the problem themselves.
Right. Your job is to guide them and point them in the direction and then take a step back and let them do it.
Yeah. And so what they're looking for when you hear overwhelm in someone's voice, your job in that moment is to be the strong, steady, calming voice and to give them the solution. Not to take on the task yourself. Right. And then sometimes they don't know that it's not your job. Like, because maybe they've had an experience where someone else did it.
Right.
Like, gosh, if Stanley worked with another agent in the future, might he have asked them to water plants too?
I'm sure he did.
Because he said, well, Kathryn did it.
I'm sure he did. But like I said, we've been talking for an hour now. And the solution to all of this, when you hear somebody say, we're not going to be living in this house, or it's a rental or whatever it is, and they don't live here, who is your point of contact? I need their information.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to ask it.
And then they'll say, oh, we don't have one. And then you say, well, you're going to need one. So let me put you in touch with X, Y, and Z, and then get back to me and tell me who they are and what you decided on. that's how you handle a situation like that, then you're never getting mail. You're never watering plants. You're never checking on. You're never bringing in packages. You're never doing any of the things because they have a point of contact that was set up through them to and then given to you. And that solves all of your problems.
So there are people who are just testing to see what they can get you to do and will take advantage. And so that's the part too, is like, if you just have the expectations up front, then you don't have to worry about that because you've already told them that's not that. Right. That's somebody else.
You set the expectation.
So whether they are just overwhelmed or they're trying to take advantage of you, the solve for all of that is expectations around your role and responsibility as an agent and who else they might need service from, for example, if they're not going to be here in town.
Right.
And then for the local people, it is less frequent if they're local, but you still get all kinds of stuff that people ask you to do. Like, can you go meet this person at the house for me? Stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like the idea. That's the other expectation setting is that happens during the listing or buyer consultation, which is selling or buying a house is inconvenient for everybody involved. You are going to have to get out of work. You're going to have to do things. You're going to have to leave your house. There are things that are going to be inconvenient. That's part of the process. Be aware of that moving before we get started. And so when those things happen, it's like, no, I won't. That is, I'm Kathryn's, Orlando's a big place. And sometimes some of the listings that she takes could be an hour and a half drive, depending on the time of day. If you start making promises that you'll go do this X, Y, Z, now all of a sudden you're driving an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back in the middle of the day. You had to move appointments around. You're not making the calls you're supposed to make. It throws off your whole system of how your week is supposed to go. You can't be consistent
if you're constantly doing tasks. You're a task rabbit for somebody.
Yeah.
Not getting paid for it. That's one thing, but you're a task rabbit if you're constantly bouncing around to other people's household maintenance.
Yeah.
Instead of the job responsibilities of a real estate professional. And I think that's the key part of all of this is you can be nice. And if somebody moves and you've had a great deal with them and they move and they forget something, you can be nice and go pick up a package and mail it for them. I'm not saying that you don't help people. What I'm saying is that you set expectations from the beginning so that you're not becoming the constant ask.
Right. I guess that is the main point, that you don't become the constant ask, that you're the point person. I think maybe some of the things that I've said over the last hour have sounded harsh and stuff, like that's not your job and blah, blah, blah. And I believe all of that, but you're 100% right. Like you should be able to go and do something. You just don't put yourself in a position where you become the point person for every aspect. Because you know what? At the end of the day, the other thing we never said, you can't scale up.
Well, that's 100% true. But I think what happens is when you do too much outside of the main job that you're there to do, you think you're creating this loyalty by doing these nice things, but you're actually creating a lot of confusion because the clients start to value the wrong thing.
Right.
And that's when they will ask you again and again and again and again. So you just have to be very careful that they're not valuing you for the little things that you're doing, but they're valuing you for your pricing strategy, your negotiation skill, your communication, your market knowledge, your problem solving, the solutions you're providing, not those little things that you're picking up from their front porch.
Yeah, 100%.
Make it simple. Your best move that you can use, not a grind. It's a tip that saves you time. Your best move.
All right, it's time for this week's best move. One simple, smart thing to focus on this week. Not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps move your business forward. And for the month of June, we're doing buyers and boundaries. And this week, we want you to create a buyer next steps email. You'll reduce confusion and unnecessary calls.
Yes. So every time there's a moment in a transaction, you should be telling them what the next step is. So, for example, you go under contract and you're giving them the contract. It's congratulations, and here's your next steps. Make your escrow deposit. Schedule your inspection. You have your inspection. Great. And here's your next step.
Yeah, you can give them a list at the beginning, but they're not going to go through a list. Like, they're not going to try to find where they are on the list. Just make it easy and just do it every single time you finish something. This is the next step.
And
Finish
I think
something.
even just every call you have, every time you talk to them, because it's email gives them a place to go back to reference. So I think it's really important to build templates for each step of the process so that it's like, here's your next steps. It's already outlined out. But even on your calls, just saying, okay, great. So we just finished that up. Do you have any questions about it? Okay, the next step is this. And then there's just, again, there's no confusion.
Yeah, well, and also, the other thing that's the most important thing, one of the most important things we always talk about, you're setting expectations.
Yeah.
Right? Always if you set expectations, it will keep you on track. If you assume that they already know, that's where the problems start.
For sure.
And where animosity gets built up. They should already know this. And why are they asking me for this? And why they're always calling me and asking me questions. And it's like, you haven't set expectations. Right.
Yeah. I think anytime you get a question, it's also a good thing to look at. Like, is this a question that everybody will have? And maybe I need to add a little step here.
The last 3 people have asked me this exact same thing. Well, then you need to add it to your buyer consultation or whatever.
Or update something because it's being missed.
Being missed, right.
Looking for those patterns.
Small win. Kathryn, what's your small win this week?
I got a few, but I think just my general one is that I'd showed properties yesterday, but I still found time to relax and dip in the pool. And I think
the dip in the pool
is like going to be the rest of the summer, you guys. Okay. That's my small win.
She loves the pool.
It's just so relaxing. Here's what I love about it, Patrick. You can't bring your phone in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could. You could be on a float or something, but I'm swimming around. It's me and my little Write in the Rain book, and it really forces you to disconnect.
Yeah, I know. You love it. And then I can't really get into my small win. I've got some things planned for this podcast, and we've got some stuff coming up in the next season, and I'm trying to nail down all the details and stuff, but things are looking good, and we've got some cool changes for the next season, and
he's always coming up with ideas for us.
Yeah,
it's
well,
great.
I'm the producer extraordinaire, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey guys,
wait, before you read your spiel.
What?
Well, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are on Instagram now.
Oh, okay.
I started an Instagram account for the podcast at the beginning of this year. And I'm posting other little snippets and things to try to help you guys.
Yeah, we post the best move up there in case you didn't write it down, and we've got some, and she's doing all sorts of like behind the scenes real estate stuff, and
just things, all the pondering things that I do throughout the week
that don't make it on the show.
Yeah, so it's little snippets, and come follow us on Instagram, and I'm going to continue to work on that and make sure I'm providing the highest level of value.
All right, and the name of our Instagram account is
On Seeking the Best.
On Seeking the Best. Not just Seeking the Best, On Seeking the Best. Same as our website, okay? Hey guys, for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us questions, or anything else we mentioned today, you can find it all at onseekingthebest.com. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
Fall down, get back up, keep on reaching, don't give up. Step by step, nothing less. This is how I seek the best.
This has been a Think, Live, Be production.